Guys, what happens when a broke guy proposes to a rich girl and she brutally rejects him, calling him a worthless beggar? But his next move is something you wouldn't imagine in your wildest dreams. Ethan was sitting at a corner table in a gorgeous vintage cafe. Just then, the doorbell chimed and Chloe walked in. Ethan's face lit up the moment he saw her. He stood up and pulled out a chair for her, but Chloe, without offering even a hint of a smile, just cast a cold glance at him and sat down. "Ethan, why do you always bring me to such cheap places? The coffee here tastes exactly like boiled water," Chloe said, pushing the menu card away with her fingers. Looking a bit embarrassed, Ethan adjusted his jacket and said softly, "I thought you liked this place. Last time that you said it had a quiet vibe. Anyway, I've already ordered your favorite caramel latte." Chloe didn't even touch the coffee cup and started checking her phone. Without even looking at Ethan, she said, "I told you I needed some money for the down payment on the new car, didn't I? Why haven't you transferred it yet?" Ethan took a deep breath. He worked at an ordinary IT firm, and his salary was barely enough to keep up with Chloe's expensive tastes. Still, putting on a smile, he said, "I took some money out of my savings, Chloe. It'll be in your account by tomorrow morning." Chloe just let out a faint, and slid her shopping bags toward Ethan, which clearly meant he was supposed to carry them. This was Chloe's everyday behavior. Through her words and her body language, she constantly put Ethan down. But Ethan was so blindly in love with her that even this humiliation felt like love to him. When Ethan left the cafe and reached home, his mother, Martha, was pulling cookies out of the oven in the kitchen. Martha was in her 60s, but her eyes held a deep understanding of the world. She saw Chloe's expensive shopping bags in Ethan's hands, and a look of disappointment washed over her face. Ethan dropped the bags on the couch and practically collapsed onto the sofa. "You're coming back after paying for her shopping again, aren't you?" Martha asked. Avoiding her gaze, Ethan replied, "Mom, she just needed a few things. I love her. I can at least do this much." Martha came over and sat next to Ethan. She lovingly placed a hand on her son's shoulder and spoke with deep seriousness. "Ethan, my child, a love that makes you fall in your own eyes is not love. That girl is only using you. She loves your money, not your goodness. The moment you can't fulfill her needs, she will leave you as if you never even existed." His mother's words stung Ethan. He jumped to Chloe's defense, just as he always did. "You don't understand her, Mom. She's just a bit practical. She likes a good lifestyle, and I'm working hard so I can give her all of that. I want to marry her, Mom, and I'm going to propose to her very soon." Martha knew her son wouldn't listen to anyone right now. The intoxication of love had stripped away his ability to think and understand. A few days later, Ethan came up with a grand plan to propose to Chloe. He had saved up months of his salary to buy a diamond ring from Tiffany and Kobatu, right by Navy Pier, offering a breathtaking view of the entire Chicago skyline and the lake. Ethan had a private candle-lit dinner set up. When Chloe arrived, even she was taken aback for a moment by the arrangement. Ethan got down on one knee, pulled the velvet box from his pocket, and looking deep into Chloe's eyes said, "Chloe, you are the most beautiful part of my life. Will you marry me?" At that moment, Ethan's eyes held all the love and hope in the world. But the expression on Chloe's face suddenly changed. She looked at the ring, then at Ethan, and a strange irritation washed over her features. "You're joking, right, Ethan?" She crossed her arms over her chest and said with absolute coldness, "Look, Ethan, you're a really nice guy, but you're not my standard. Do you honestly think I can see a future with this tiny ring and that mediocre job of yours? You're not even capable enough to fulfill my dreams. I can't ruin my life with you." Saying this, Chloe grabbed her purse and walked away without even looking back. Ethan just stayed there, kneeling on the ground. The box slipped from his hands and fell to the floor. Chloe's words were tearing his soul apart. He couldn't comprehend how the girl who was his entire life just moments ago had suddenly become such a stranger. Under the cover of night, Ethan walked back home with heavy footsteps. Martha was watching TV, but seeing Ethan's condition, she immediately stood up. Ethan went over, sat on the floor by his mother's feet, and buried his face in her lap. "She left me, Mom. She said I wasn't worthy of her." Ethan began sobbing uncontrollably like a little child. Martha's heart broke into pieces, seeing her son shattered like this. Stroking Ethan's hair, she pulled him close to her chest. "I always tried to make up for everything she lacked, Mom. But my love wasn't enough for her. She just wanted money. My love meant absolutely nothing to her, Mom. Such deep love. I had built so many dreams for her, and she ruined it all in a single moment and walked away. My life is destroyed, Mom. Destroyed. How will I ever pull myself out of this swamp? How? Is this all that love means? That you love someone with all your heart and soul, and in return, all you get is betrayal? Just betrayal. Tell me, Mom. Tell me, am I that bad? Is there nothing but betrayal in my destiny? That night, only the sobs of a broken heart echoed in that small house, while a mother, wiping her son's tears, silently prayed to pull him out of that agony. Chloe never looked back after leaving Ethan. Her goal had always been clear: money and luxury. Within a few months, she met Julian. Julian was a highly influential, billionaire investment banker on Wall Street. Captivated by Chloe's beauty, Julian fell for her. And soon they were married. Chloe's dream had come true. She now lived in a luxurious Manhattan penthouse with the entire city of New York sprawled at her feet. There was no shortage of designer clothes, expensive jewelry, or luxury cars for her. But the reality behind all this glitz and glamour was incredibly dark. Julian had absolutely no time for her. He would be away on business trips for months. And when he was home, he was buried in his phone or laptop. Chloe was left completely alone in that massive house. She would try to talk to Julian, but he would just hand her his credit card and say, "Buy whatever you want, Chloe. I don't have time for this nonsense." Slowly, Chloe was beginning to realize that she wasn't Julian's wife, but merely a beautiful trophy kept in his lavish home. Time passed, and Julian's behavior grew even colder. One night, when Julian returned home, his clothes reeked of another woman's perfume. When Chloe questioned him about it, Julian showed zero remorse. Casually taking off his coat, he said, "Look, Chloe, I married you and gave you everything you wanted. Money, status, luxury. Don't expect me to just revolve around you now. I have other people in my life." Chloe was paralyzed hearing this. She begged Julian for loyalty and love. She cried. She pleaded. But there was no emotion on Julian's face. A few days later, Julian's lawyer handed Chloe divorce papers. Julian was going to marry another woman, and under the terms of their pre-nuptial agreement, he threw Chloe out of the house. Chloe no longer had that luxurious home, nor Julian, nor anyone to call her own. She stood completely alone on the streets of New York with her suitcase. The very greed for money that made her reject true love had brought her straight to the streets today. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Ethan's life had taken a new turn. The void Chloe left behind was filled by Ethan with sheer hard work. He worked day and night, and now he was in a senior position at his company. It was during this time that Haley came into his life. Haley was a grounded, simple, and honest girl who worked at the same company. Haley fell in love with Ethan's simplicity and his truthfulness. Unlike Chloe, she didn't demand expensive gifts. She was perfectly happy just sharing a cup of coffee with Ethan. Haley had healed Ethan's broken heart. Ethan finally understood that true love isn't what makes you feel inferior at every turn, but rather what gives you the courage to become a better version of yourself. Ethan and Haley got married, and they were living in a small but happy world. There was no sadness in Ethan's eyes anymore, only a deep peace that came from being with Haley. One evening, amidst the winter snowfall, Chloe wandered back to Chicago, desperately looking for work. That radiant glow on her face, which she was once so arrogant about, was completely gone. Shivering from the cold, she stopped outside a brightly lit restaurant. She peeked inside through the glass window, and her eyes fell on a table. Ethan was sitting there, and sitting across from him was Haley. The two of them were laughing out loud about something. Ethan was holding Haley's hand in his, and his eyes held the same boundless love that he once used to have for Chloe. The ground slipped from under Chloe's feet as she stood outside the window. She remembered every single word she had spoken that day at Navy Pier. Seeing Ethan so happy, it felt as though the life had been drained out of Chloe's body right in that moment. Today, she realized that the true wealth was Ethan's love, the very love she had trampled under her feet. Today, when she herself had been betrayed in love, when her own heart had been shattered into pieces, she finally felt the weight of Ethan's pain, but it was far too late now. Ethan's world was now illuminated by Haley, and all that remained for Chloe was the silence of that dark, snowy night, and the never-ending regret of her mistakes.